knowledge.
Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this special interview as part of our Focal Length series on NewsX and NewsX World. We are in conversation today with Randall, Minister for Economic Development and Small Business, province of New Brunswick, Canada. Welcome to India. Thank you for being with us today on NewsX and NewsX World.
Thank you for having me. It is a real honor to be here.
Let me begin by asking you, Minister, about the purpose of your visit. You're,
Sure.
of course, leading a significant delegation from New Brunswick to India. You're going to be here for a few days. This is the first visit of yours to India and the first visit by a ministerial level delegation to India as well.
Yes, so we are certainly here because we see the opportunity in India. We've had a team on the ground for years now. This is our administration's first opportunity to have a minister here. We've brought a group of businesses to India, and we're certainly having conversations with potential investors who want to come to New Brunswick. I also have a visit planned to perhaps one of the most successful New Brunswick companies that has based themselves in India, and that would be the McCain Group, the McCain India division. So I'm going to be visiting the research center. So we want to see more of that on both sides of Canada and India. We want to see more business development. We want to build those relationships and seize the moment which this time presents.
Yes. If we talk about, the history of New Brunswick, India trade ties, just tell us a bit about that, where things stand right now.
Sure.
You have been, in a way, if we can say, the leader in the provinces of Canada in solidifying these business opportunities between our two countries. Where do things stand right now? What are
Sure.
your targets like for the next few years?
Sure. So I'm going to start with Editil Burla. They actually operate a mill in New Brunswick. That would be a huge percentage of our exports to India. So they're developing wood pulp that would feed into the making of rayon. And that presents a great opportunity to grow. And I would say on the other side, here in India, McCain would be a company that's growing at breakneck speed. They are a huge provider of French fries and potato products in India, based right here on the ground, manufacturing in India, doing a lot of research in India. So I'd say those would be two anchors on both sides, both in Canada, in New Brunswick, and in India. But there's other examples. We are seeing a lot of ITC work that's coming from India into New Brunswick. We're a lesser expensive nearshoring opportunity for Indian companies who really want that wraparound support that Opportunities New Brunswick can provide, and our staff in terms of being able to touch the entire North American market. So we've become a really amazing entry point for companies who want that exposure to the North American market.
Yes. Also, if we talk about the industries in particular,
Mm-hmm.
which sectors do these companies belong to that are doing business and that can hope to do as well?
So we're certainly seeing a lot of forestry on the New Brunswick side. So Indian companies who are investing there. But we're seeing a lot of investment in terms of agri-tech. We're seeing a lot of investment in terms of advanced manufacturing. A lot of companies are accessing supply chain opportunities in India. And a lot of companies are really looking at India as an opportunity to perhaps shift away from the United States for supply chain or China. India has become a huge potential partner. We're seeing a reliable trade partner from the New Brunswick perspective in India, but we're also seeing that in the reverse too. India is looking at New Brunswick as a place that they can do business, where they can access resources in mining, in nuclear, access education talent. We've seen a lot of success in terms of UNB developing partners, University of New Brunswick developing partners here in India. So there's been a lot of opportunities in a number of sectors, whether that be ITC, whether that be natural resources, or whether that be in education.
Overall as well, there's a lot of scope and and growth areas for our partnership in trade between New Brunswick and India, but overall as well for Canada and India. Do you believe that there are huge opportunities for us to further collaborate? We are hopefully going to have your Prime Minister visit India as well, I think in the next couple of months. We had the Indian Prime Minister, of course, in Canada last year. He also met with your Prime Minister at the G20 as well in the second half of last year. So we are seeing this reset in ties, and trade, I think, is going to play a key role in this whole ties reset. Do you believe there are huge opportunities between our two countries, and do you hope for more collaboration in trade and other areas in the next few years?
That's why I'm here. We've been on the ground with opportunities in New Brunswick for several years now. And as the political tone shifts, we've been able to leverage that base that we've built over the last few years and accelerate it. So I'm here with New Brunswick companies. I'm meeting with Indian companies because, yes, absolutely, we believe that this is just the beginning. We've laid a foundation. And the opportunity is now. This moment was made for that conversation between India and Canada, and this moment was made to lean into it.
Do you hope that there will be perhaps a free trade agreement as well signed sooner rather than later? We've seen it signed between India and other nations as well in the last few weeks and months.
I think our perspective in New Brunswick is that anything that allows freer, more open trade is something that we want, that we'll lean into because we're already developing that relationship. And anything that can help that, anything that can help spur more trade, reduce costs for companies looking to do business both in India or in Canada, really does help us. That helps our position in New Brunswick. That helps us on these trade missions to create a value proposition for both Indian entrepreneurs and New Brunswick entrepreneurs.
Yes. There has been a new wave of protectionism unleashed by the United States of America over the last year with tariffs. And many have said that this is, in a way, a weaponizing of trade and trade ties. Do you believe, though, this also creates opportunities for new partnerships, new relations to be forged? Is Canada doing that? Are you also doing that in New Brunswick? And could this then provide an opportunity for us?
Absolutely. So for your viewers to understand, we're the most trade-dependent province in Canada. Much of that trade has traditionally been with the United States. We're very eager to diversify. And this perhaps has set up this moment to be able to signal to businesses in New Brunswick that, hey, we're exporting a lot to the US, but there is this exploding market in India, this massive middle class that's growing, that's a significantly larger market than the United States. We may look back at this moment of time as a huge opportunity because it has really signaled to businesses in Canada that we haven't, in fact, approached the Indian market in the way that we could have. And this is a huge drive towards being able to jump into the market, bring our companies who maybe had relied on the US market, but perhaps relied on a market that was smaller than what the India market presents in the future. So, I mean, I think that anyone who sees what's happening in world trade understands that there is a shift. And I'm very excited to be here again to explore the shift and the opportunities that India presents.
But are you seeing that shift on ground as well? And are you seeing people's perception towards that shift on ground as well?
So I would say absolutely yes. When I talk to my team about what level companies were at in terms of the engagement in terms of exploring a trade mission 3 or 4 years ago, that's shifted. People are very much eager to talk about what the opportunities are in India. And perhaps there was a hesitancy 4 or 5 years ago because maybe the capacity wasn't there. Or perhaps there was a comfort level with the trade that was happening so close to home. I would say that McCain is an amazing example. They started in the 1990s in India. They are an amazing example to show other companies in New Brunswick how explosive growth can be if they start building those relationships. So I'm excited that Opportunities in New Brunswick began building that relationship several years ago, and I'm very excited to see the interest grow on the New Brunswick side in terms of investing in New Brunswick. But I'm also excited to see the reverse. Indian companies coming to New Brunswick have an opportunity to pay their employees a wage that will buy them a home, that will allow them to access publicly funded education, publicly funded healthcare, turn on the taps, and have a 5-minute drive to work. There's just so many advantages, both in India for Canadian companies, but Indian companies being able to use New Brunswick as a jumping off point to that North American market.
You know, things you've told us from a micro perspective. From a macro perspective, was this important, though, this reset in ties, so that all this can happen? This reset in ties at a national level between India and Canada.
I'd say that we've set a foundation for opportunity. Political conversations well beyond our control certainly did provide an opportunity to say, hey, there's this amazing market. You need to jump into it because perhaps there's a less open or willingness to have that trade between Canada and the United States. So, faced with that conversation, I think that that's created a real openness for a long-term relationship reset with India.
Fantastic. Now, also getting back to the sectors, you told us about forestry and others from the perspective of New Brunswick. From India, do you see potential most in pharmaceuticals, IT, textile exports? Where do you see the potential in India in terms of sectors?
What we've seen is a lot of ICT investment. There's been a partnership in terms of fintech. We've seen partnerships in terms of supply chain feeding into advanced manufacturing. I do think there's an even larger opportunity, though. I think that Indian companies certainly can look to Canada to fill a supply chain that perhaps had found a pathway through the U.S. market or through the Chinese market that perhaps Indian companies could be looking at to exploit even more. There's a huge consumer goods component that certainly India could be looking to fill. So I think that we've seen a huge amount of success in particular sectors, but I think there's so much more growth. I think that the opportunity for Indian companies to visit New Brunswick, to visit Canada, to understand the value proposition at a time where supply chains have completely shifted, where companies perhaps have shifted so much that they've perhaps lost a large portion of what they would have delivered 2 years ago. There's a void that they could be filling, and I think that we're only at the base level of exploring that.
Okay. Also, I have to ask you about now back to this particular visit of yours, because I'm sure your ministry and Opportunities New Brunswick have been working on it for a while. That is what has led this final ministerial level visit to fructify to India. What are the goals? What are the agenda items for this visit to India?
The goals, of course, would be to finalize some of the deals that we've been working on in terms of investment attraction. We'll be working on those conversations while I'm here. I certainly want to better understand what New Brunswick companies are doing here on the ground in India to find ways to better support them and better support New Brunswick companies in terms of feeding into their supply chain. But I also want to help New Brunswick companies find opportunities on the ground here in India to get their roots on the ground, to be able to engage with the Indian market and the Indian consumer so that we can find a pathway to a long-term relationship. We need to be on both sides. We need to be talking to each other, developing friendships, and building that relationship so that we have a foundation for the future.
Are you also hoping for greater people-to-people ties as well?
Absolutely.
Business, education as well. We do see a lot of Indian students going to Canada every year. Do you believe that this will lead to greater people-to-people ties? Again, as I said, over the last couple of years, we did see a slight dip. But are you hopeful that all of that now will be reset as well?
So what I'd say is that UNB, University of New Brunswick, is a huge part of this trip. They're on this mission with us. There's already a strong people-to-people tie there, and we're looking to make it better. Our team is so creative. I know that there's already some pilot programs that are training Indian students with New Brunswick curriculum. So I'm looking to certainly support any of those efforts going forward. Anything that we can build stronger people-to-people ties so that we can see the movement of workers both from Canada to India, but also India to Canada, we are there to support. And in any way that our team can help support Indian companies on the ground, that's what this trip is all about for sure.
Well, since you're in India for the first time, how are you finding it?
Oh my goodness, I can't wait to come back. I've only been here on the ground for a couple days now, and it's been a lot of meetings and a lot of conversations and a lot of friendships starting, and I can't wait for my next trip.
Tell us something about New Brunswick as well for our viewers. What's something nice to see there? How's the place? How's the environment? How's the weather? And what's the best thing about your province?
I would say wide open spaces, the ability to be in one place, perhaps you're home, head to work in 5 minutes, but then on the weekend, be able to drive 20 minutes and be at the ocean. I think it's wide open spaces, beautiful natural scenes, fresh water, easy access to so many resources. I think people, if they want to enjoy a beautiful space, we are the place to come. It's easy to get around. We have very friendly people, amazing food, and a welcoming atmosphere. Perhaps India's atmosphere is even more welcoming than New Brunswick, but I think Indians will find of all the places in North America, we have a very warm, hospitable place to visit that is filled with a lot of natural beauty.
Absolutely. Also, the Indian economy as well. We've seen how it's grown to the fourth largest economy now across the world. Are you pretty bullish about the way the Indian economy is performing and the way forward it's going?
I'd say that's why we're here. We're very bullish about where the Indian economy is going. We're very excited to see the growth here, and we're very excited for the opportunities for both Canada and India. I think that we've known that. That's why we were on the ground here early, and that's why we'll continue to put resources into the relationship.
Well, hoping for a fruitful visit of yours and, of course, greater ties between our countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.